Welcome back to this explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a profoundly detailed psychological map of human destiny. We're unpacking chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, and honestly, this text is an absolute masterpiece of ancient wisdom. We aren't just going to look at it as some dusty piece of history, though. We're going to break it down as a highly practical, structured guide to understanding human nature, and specifically, how our internal qualities completely dictate our external reality. To unpack this incredibly structured text, we'll quickly follow this roadmap. First, we'll look at the two destinies. Second, the qualities leading to liberation. Third, the trap of the ego. Fourth, the three gates of hell. And finally, Scripture as the compass.
So to set the scene a bit, this ancient wisdom is delivered by Sri Krishna to the warrior Arjuna. Picture them right in the middle of a literal chaotic battlefield, sitting on a chariot. But as the text and its commentaries point out, there's a deeper layer here. The real battle being discussed, it's right within the human mind. Arjuna actually represents the individual soul, and the chariot is the physical body. The conflict we are about to explore is that ultimate, eternal struggle between our positive, liberating tendencies and our negative, binding ones.
Now, we've got to define the chapter's actual title first, Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. In English, that translates to the yoga of the distinction between the divine and the demonic destinies. The terminology here is super fascinating. Look, we aren't talking about literal monsters with horns or angels with wings. The text reveals its core theme by contrasting states of human consciousness. These are entirely psychological destinies. They are inner endowments that we actively cultivate within our own minds. All right, let's jump into Section 1, the two human destinies, essentially the crossroads. Let's see how this text establishes a stark duality in our nature. Because everything really does boil down to this fundamental crossroads. We face two very distinct paths. Down one path, we have the divine traits, things like fearlessness, purity, and nonviolence. The text states that these qualities lead to liberation. But down the other path, we have the demonic or negative traits, hypocrisy, arrogance, and harshness. This is a deeply diluted nature, and the text doesn't mince words. These qualities bind us. They lock us into a cycle of suffering. Literally, every action we take is a step down one of these two paths.
Moving right along to Section 2, Qualities Leading to Liberation, which is our upward path. Let's break down the specific toolkit you need for this journey.
Out of the 26 divine qualities listed right in the opening verses of the chapter, these ones right here are some of the most prominent. The ones the text says act as an absolute endowment for ultimate freedom. It kicks off with abhayam, which is fearlessness, and sattva samsuddhis, purity of being. And from that inner state, it builds outward into how we actually interact with the world, giving, compassion for all beings, truth, and nonviolence. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that spirituality isn't just about sitting quietly in a room. It's the active, daily cultivation of these precise, positive traits that fundamentally alter your destiny.
But what happens when things go wrong? That brings us to Section 3, the trap of the ego and the demonic worldview. Verse 8 describes this incredibly specific, ego-driven worldview. It states that people trapped in this mindset literally believe the universe is without truth, without basis, without a God, caused by lust alone. Basically, they see the world as merely a product of mutual union and sexual passion, completely devoid of any higher spiritual law or meaning. It brilliantly illustrates how a purely materialistic, cynical outlook breeds profound delusion. Because think about it, if there is no higher truth, well, the only thing left to pursue is the gratification of your own desires, right?
And let's see how this builds, because holding on to that belief system triggers a tragic downward spiral. Step 1 is adopting that false materialistic worldview we just talked about. From there, the text says these individuals, described as having small intelligence and lost selves, proceed straight to Step 2, committing cruel actions. Why? Well, because they're driven by insatiable desire and pure arrogance. Ultimately, this leads to Step 3, where they come forth as literal enemies of the world acting for its destruction. It's a precise psychological map showing us exactly how internal ignorance creates massive external chaos. And you know, it's not just about obvious cartoonish cruelty. This delusion also deeply corrupts seemingly good actions. Just look at this verse. Self-conceited, stubborn, filled with the pride and arrogance of wealth, they perform sacrifices only in name. People trapped in this state become utterly obsessed with wealth and status. They might perform charitable deeds or religious sacrifices, sure, but it is done entirely out of hypocrisy, what the text calls damba. It's not driven by any true inner compass. It's purely a theatrical performance just to feed their own arrogance.
Which brings us to the absolute climax of the chapter. Section 4, the three gates of hell, the downward spiral.
The text poses a critical, almost chilling concept here. It asks us to identify the specific traps that completely ruin our inner peace. If your mind is a fortress, what are the exact entry points that allow destruction to just walk right in?
The answer in verse 21 is incredibly direct. Desire, anger, and greed. Kama, Krodha, and Lobha. The text explicitly names these as the three gates to hell, stating flat out that they are destructive of the self, and insists they must be absolutely abandoned. As the commentary in our sources notes, think of desire and anger like two notorious burglars. They are incredibly adept at sneaking into your house to steal the jewels of peace and happiness. If a desire goes unfulfilled, it instantly morphs into anger. Anger leads straight to delusion, and from delusion, a person is entirely lost. These three gates are the absolute root cause of the downward spiral.
So how do we lock those gates and protect our inner jewels? We need a reliable map. Section 5. Scripture as the compass, the resolution. We actually find the resolution right in the very last verse of the chapter. Krishna's concluding instruction acts as our ultimate compass. He says, "Therefore, determining your standard by the scriptures as to what is and what is not to be done, you should perform action here in this world." Look, when our own minds are clouded by desire and anger, our personal judgment simply cannot be trusted. It's compromised. The standard for determining right from wrong action has to be anchored in the objective, ancient wisdom of Scripture. It is this knowledge that cuts right through our delusion.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. Take a hard look at the choices you make every single day. Are your actions rooted in giving, truth, and fearlessness? Are you building your divine endowment? Or are they quietly driven by desire, anger, and ego, slowly wedging open those gates to delusion? The text makes it absolutely clear. The battlefield is your own mind, and the destiny you create is entirely in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. Keep questioning, keep learning, and pay close attention to your own path.